ran the ball well. Josh really did a great job of kind of taking the next step in the pass game, so I was really encouraged by that.
JG said the other day that he felt like the offense did its job well enough that you guys should win the game. How do you feel about that kind of?
Yeah, I think my message, and this was my message in the room, is our goal is always to score more than they do, and we didn't do that. So I think at the end of the day, we have to be better on offense. We got to find a way to score more points. Yes, very encouraged by how we played, and certainly did things better than we did in week 1. But we need to continue to grow and continue to improve, and that's always going to be our mindset, really win or lose. So that was kind of the message, kind of Monday morning.
After the game, Josh talked about finishing, and as good as it was to a point, the last few possessions. I mean, who knows? One longer drive might have changed the game, even if you don't score. What's the concern there in the last 2 weeks, really, in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, I think, and I know JG hit on it, I think it comes down to execution, and it certainly comes down to play calling. I got to get those guys in position to make plays at the end of the game. We need to lock in and feel confident that we can execute in critical situations. I certainly have that confidence in the players. I want them to have it in themselves. But that's something certainly we're going to take a look at because it got us here the first 2 weeks of the season.
After watching film, what was the main difference between the halves offensively?
Yeah, I think it's kind of what we just talked about. I think it's a combination of play calling and execution. You're always going to try to find ways to keep a defense off balance and get your best players the ball, and they're going to try to find ways to take that away. And for whatever reason, they're down the stretch, we didn't execute the way we wanted to, and certainly felt like I could have given them some better opportunities.
Did you call the game any differently later than you did earlier?
I mean, not necessarily from like a, hey, we're going to get to this or do that. It's always kind of a, hey, what are we getting from them? Where are we in the game? What do we need to do to be successful? So you certainly don't want to just repeat the same calls as you go through the game. You're trying to find the next call that's going to keep them off balance and allow you to be successful.
You mentioned what the defense is doing, and sometimes certainly that's a part of it. I know at the end, I mean, James had obviously ran really well, but again at the end, his last several carries just, and that affects drives certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you get stopped at or near the line of scrimmage, you put yourself in some second and third and longs, it can be a harder game. Against that defense, really against any defense, those are the situations we're going to try to stay out of. And I think for the most part, that game we did, and then kind of got into those late in the game, which was hard.
Speaking of James, that first half, he really got going, had 100 yards by the middle of the third quarter. What did you like out of him kind of the first 35, 37 minutes?
Yeah, I think the big thing, and this is him as a player, like just the intensity, the physicalness that he brings to the offense, the decision-making, kind of that leadership. It's really the full package. I was really pleased with kind of how he played, the way he carried himself, and just the way he goes throughout every game, really.
What was the biggest difference or improvement from Josh from week 1 to week 2 that you saw and gives you confidence going forward with him running this offense?
Yeah, I think a big part of it was his confidence. I think you could feel that in the way he was playing the game and the way he was making decisions and the way he was taking ownership in and out of the huddle, on the sideline with the guys. So I was really encouraged by that and certainly expect it to continue.
Is that ideal for James, that amount of carries and touches? And think that he can handle that going forward, game in, game out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're going to, obviously going to ride the hot hand. I thought he was running the ball really well, so I wanted to get him carries. But there's a lot of good players in that room, so I got no problem if, hey, some games is going to come up different based on flow or feel of the game or number of reps we get. So not a big concern of mine, but I feel like he's fully capable of handling that.
How do you guys determine that? Is that something that Audrey's moving his guys in and out as a running back coach, or do you guys have a say in, okay, we want James in here on these plays?
I think it's a combination. There's certainly hey, this is a play he runs really well. We want to make sure he's in there for it. Hey, this is how many reps we would like him to get during the course of the game. And then, hey, if you're on a really long series, like guys get tired. Like he may tap out, hey, I need 2 or 3 plays off to catch my breath. Great. Let's get those other guys in there. So I think it's a balance as you go through the game of figuring out, hey, there's certain things we want him in there on. Certain series we may need him. Other series we may want the other guys for different reasons. So I think that's kind of a balance based on game to game and obviously the flow of the game depending on how many reps you've had as an offense.
Take us through Josh's big touchdown run, just what you saw from the sideline?
Yeah, I think the big thing, obviously had a pass up that he made a great decision and saw kind of the pocket open. I think the offensive line did an unbelievable job of creating a very clean running lane, and everybody downfield was kind of matching their routes, so it kind of left him clean in the middle of the field to make that decision. And then certainly when he got to about the 10, 8-yard line, I think I was like, is he going to slide? What's he going to do? And I think it became very evident that he was not going to, and was really excited for him to see him get in the end zone and finish that play off.
Penalties at crucial points, plays called back, false starts on that final drive. What do you say to your offense to clean it up week 3?
Yeah, I think one of the quotes that, and this is true in critical situations, sometimes it's true with teams in the red zone that I've heard, over the years of coaching is heightened awareness, not anxiety. Like, as you get into critical situations, yes, like, you need to be more aware, you need to be more locked in, but it shouldn't come with anxiousness or anxiety. And I think that's a natural feeling as a human. Like, you get into big moments in anything in your life, there's that kind of like feeling of butterflies. And so I think we have to collectively, coaches included, just kind of settle down, understand that those situations are going to arise, and make sure we're prepared to handle them a little bit better than we did, on Sunday.
Approach a defense that's playing as well as the Cowboys are.
Yeah, it's a great group. I mean, certainly extremely talented. Dan Quinn does a great job as a coach, has for a long time. So we're going to kind of pick it together, pick it apart over these, next 48 hours and try to see where the matchups are that we think are favorable. How do we get our best players the ball, and how do we keep them off balance? I think that's, kind of the battle you go through every week. And certainly these guys create some unique challenges for a number of reasons.
How do you stop Micah Parsons specifically?
So far, I don't think you can. But no, that's our task. I think that's going to be the focus. Obviously, he's one of the better defensive players in the entire league. So he's earned that respect, and certainly we're going to give him that respect in terms of the way that we call the game, put the plan together, and go out there and try to execute.
Those penalties the false start was a little strange to hear the noise from the opposing team's fans, and I guess I don't know how much you dealt with it in other places you've been, but I mean, here being the first time here, hearing that for the first time, was that kind of strange?
No, I think I think the biggest thing in that situation is when we're communicating in the line of scrimmage, we all got to make sure that we remember the snap count and that we're locked in on what we're trying to accomplish. I think there was a little bit of lack of focus more than anything. I think our fans did a great job all game, so was really encouraged by that, and we just got to lock in those key moments.
Do you anticipate keeping the same 5 guys in the offensive line going forward, staying rolling with that group?
Yeah, excited about how that group played. Certainly, we're always going to look to get better, but I was really encouraged by the way that they've gelled and played together.
Kind of what this offense can be like to its.
Yeah, we scored 20 points a half. I'm going to be just fine. No, I think it's I think there's a great example of what we want to be. We ran the ball, we play action, we operated on third down, protection was really clean, we kept the quarterback clean, we were able to create explosive plays in both phases. So I think anytime you can do that, you create a lot of indecision for the defense. Like, who are we trying to stop? How are we trying to stop it? And that allows you to be multiple and allows you to kind of keep people on their heels a little bit.
Pretty solid in the run game and made 2 big catches in that game. What was your evaluation of Trey McBride?
Yeah, I think Trey's playing at a really high level. I told him that. I think just similar to what we talked about James, the physical aspect of his play on top of his ability to show up in the passing game and separate from man-to-man coverage and go out there and catch and run once the ball's in his hand. I think really makes him a dynamic player. Doing a great job.
Greg George hasn't had a role in the first 2 games on offense. Just curious, is that the guys are ahead of him, packages that are being used, or a combination of both?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's going to depend. Hey, you get into a 75, 80 play game and you're on the ball a lot. He's going to be in there. I fully trust him. I thought he did a great job this preseason of learning the offense, going out there and playing at a high level. But every game comes up different. And so whether it's the packages or the personnel that we want to utilize that game, haven't seen him out there maybe as much as you may moving forward.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot.
kicks?
Players haven't been in yet, so find out tomorrow. Yeah.
Is that going to change kind of how special team coaches plan against like a kick block, that type of thing?
Well, it's not the first time it's happened. Primetime game, it was successful, so it certainly garners more attention. There's some things about that play, the timing elements of that play that obviously New England had a beat on, and you look for that stuff as a coach attacking field goal protection groups as well as your own field goal protection groups. You know, it's kind of a checks and balances. You think you're looking at, you know, everything you need to, and it's like, okay, one more time, let's go through this again. You know, Dallas happens to be a team that likes to look at the holder, you know, when he's getting ready for the ball. So, you know, there's been times where people have been able to decoy that and maybe get them to jump.
In a situation like Prater missing that first field goal and then he didn't have a problem the rest of the game, just from how experienced he is in the league, is he a type of player where you have to go and make sure he's not getting in his head, or he's able to move past that pretty quickly in a situation?
Yeah, I mean, I've been around Matt for a while. He knows what he needs to do. In that particular kick, he barely missed it, but obviously wasn't planning on doing that. He's mature enough. He's been through enough things. He kind of gets right back on the horse and gets back after it.
I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. Were you surprised at all of the general, and with fans and stuff, in terms of how the reaction when a field goal is missed? I mean, it feels like everybody expects these all to go through 100% of the time. I mean, if you go back and look at 40 years ago, if a guy was making 60% of his field goals, it was really good. So are you surprised at all that people just automatically assume these guys are going to make every single one of these?
I don't know. I mean, guys are pros at whatever the task is, right? Like, and just take it beyond specialists. Like, there's an eligible receiver and he doesn't come down with the ball, or a wide open receiver that gets, you know, overthrown and stuff. Like, there's human error with all those things, and if you're a little off, you know, it can cause an issue. But my experience has been fans have pretty high expectations.
Not punting until you guys had to that late in the game. What's the protocol, I guess, that you put in place with somebody like Cooney or whoever your punter is to kind of stay fresh and stay focused throughout the game?
Yeah, I kind of leave it up to them, whatever their needs are. You know, that's not something that's common to not punt until those points in the game. But what you don't want to do is, hey, every time we get the ball, you know, let's have 15 punts. And at the end of the game, they've punted the ball into a net 100 times. And so they kind of, with kickers and punters, they're always going to hit a couple, you know, when the drive starts, and then kind of just watch what happens. You know, there's things that guys, so even if you're on defense, you know, if a kicker hasn't gotten up off the bench in, you know, 10 minutes, you know, and you have a pick six and it's going the other way, he's got to be ready to kick that extra point. So kickers, like, usually the predictability for a punter is like the drive is going on. You kind of see what's going on with the kicker. It can happen at any point. But then again, with the punter, you know, a safety, you know, puts him in action right away. So to answer your question, I kind of leave it up to them to see what they need, and just seeing how guys perform in those situations. Maybe you make an adjustment, or maybe you leave it the same.
Do you expect more teams to replicate what the Patriots did now? And if so, does that change kind of how you approach every week now, trying to make sure guys are aware of more? I
think you show it to your guys. There will be no less than 5 of our players who will say, Coach, I can do exactly what that guy did. But you have to have the timing elements of those things. I promise you this, it was not random. It was very detailed. The player was perfect in terms of what he was doing. I have a pretty good guess on how I think they worked it, but you know, it's a good play by them.
Thanks, Coach.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yep.
you always want to rotate on the D-line. So I don't know if that's necessarily the biggest obstacle to overcome is how are we going to rotate now? Like we talked about, everybody up front who has a jersey on game day, you want them to get a good amount of snaps. You want to stay fresh up front. And, obviously with the injuries, it's guys have to step up and play well. And that's one thing that I appreciate about our roster is I feel like we have really good depth, especially up front where I'm comfortable whoever's stepping in there for guys that are out. I feel good with the guys we got to go out there and play good on first, second down, pass downs, all of it.
I guess the follow-up being not having Baker, what do you lose from that, and then what did you like from Sachere?
Yeah, so obviously Buddha is a special player, and that's hard to replace. It takes all 11 to replace, what he brings to the table. It's not just Dre. I was happy with how Dre went in there and played at safety. That's the safety role, but what about the leadership role? What about the energy? What about the ability to take the ball away? It takes all 11 guys on the field to be able to make up for what you're missing there when Buddha is out. And, we got to bring that type of energy that Buddha plays with. All 11 guys that are out there, they got to play with that kind of energy.
You've been doing a lot of different things up front, whether it's 3 outside linebackers and 1 defensive lineman, 4 outside linebackers, no defensive lineman. Where does the creativity in terms of play design come from?
The opponent, really, to start. The opponent, and then, not just their offensive line, but the quarterback's ability to move in the pocket, scheme, their protection schemes, how they set in protection, who do we have, what's our skill set, who's available for the week. Like, that all plays a role, and that happens on Mondays and Tuesdays to figure out what is the best grouping to go out there, and it'll look different every week. It will, which that's kind of the fun part of the job a little bit. And but yeah, it's kind of the fitting the pieces. I call it the pressure matrix. Like, what is the matrix we're putting together, and you can start to kind of like, whew, there's a lot of details to this as far as I'm trying to get these matchups, or I'm trying to get this for the quarterback, whatever that is. Like, just that's the game planning, week to week adaptability.
Is that all you, or is that you?
No, it's a collective effort from the entire defense staff.
Did you get a sense of, or do you understand maybe what happened in the second half in terms of the way the Giants were able to move the ball? I mean, was it a stamina issue? Did you guys get gassed?
No, it wasn't a stamina issue. Like, obviously, just I'll say this, like that second half is obviously very disappointing. Jonathan talks about all the time, takes all 3 phases to win, and I don't feel like we did that defensively. We didn't pull our part in the second half to finish that game. I thought that the effort was there. I thought the motor was there. It was honestly a lack of executing at a high level, and it starts with me. And obviously, there's play calls in there that should have been different and should have put us in a better position for. They started really chucking the ball deep third-level routes, and I should have put us in some better positions to take away those concepts. But yeah, I think we could, as a whole, coaches and players, execute at a higher level in the second half. That doesn't necessarily mean get conservative, but we got to communicate and finish that game. And the cool thing is yesterday, like, from the coaches to the players, it was complete ownership. It wasn't thinking about could have been, what should have, could have, would have. It was, how do I have to do my job better so that we can learn how to finish that game, right? And so don't look at that as a woe is me type of experience or situation. Look at it as a learning experience, to where when you get in that situation, you have to finish that game. And, hopefully we've learned our lesson on what we have to do to capitalize and come on with a win.
You mentioned the defensive line and being comfortable with all the rotations. But, Kevin and Jonathan played, especially when Carlos went out, played a lot of snaps.
They did.
And then Kevon and Andre played a lot of snaps. Is there concern about that and not really having a lot of guys that play a lot more?
Yeah, I think in the back end, guys have to be able to play the whole game. Linebackers, DBs, they got to be able to go however many plays. It was 68 or so. But up front, you do want to rotate those guys. So I thought, Kevin and Ledbetter, they got a little high with their reps, and that obviously part of that is with injuries happening, you have to be able to change that throughout the game and adjust, whether that's by packages or just how you're rotating them. So I got to do a better job communicating that and getting the reps a little bit even. Like I said, anyone up front that's got a jersey, they got to play a good amount of snaps, keep it fresh up front.
The big fourth down conversion from Daniel Jones ran for it. What goes into that? Is that him just making a play, and how deflating can something be like that? How do you kind of pick your defense up for the rest of the drive or something like that?
Yeah, that was part of the plan. We knew Daniel had the ability to get out of the pocket and run, and we got to execute that better, whether that's by the call or just how we rush and not let him out of the pocket. And when people convert, I mean, you got to play the next play. You don't have much choice to sit there and kind of sulk over it. So, that's something we train ourselves to try to be resilient. And okay, they completed it, we'll get it corrected, but let's go to the next play.
You guys did a blitz a ton, and it worked in the first half. Now it's going to work in the second half. What goes into deciding when to call those?
Yeah, we didn't really get to a lot of third downs in the second half. I think that can contribute to, they have the ability to have the whole playbook open, and whether you could blitz that stuff or I chose not to, but they had runs up, they had play actions up, boots. You got to be a little bit careful of when you're just pinning your ears back and going. So I think when you can get them into a little bit more of a must-pass situation, I think that allows you to be able to do more. But we didn't do a good enough job of keeping them behind the sticks.
You mentioned that, but it was a lot of that, how successful they were on first down, and is that a tougher
Absolutely
call in terms of what the situation is?
Absolutely. It wasn't just getting first downs; they were getting chunks early in the drive, and that's never good. So I felt like some of those drives, it was like 2-3 plays, bang, they're in the high red zone, they're in the red zone, and that's explosives, right? That's what we talk about. You can't give up explosives. That was the most disappointing thing. I think I said it before half, and I didn't do it a good enough job of putting us in situations to eliminate explosives. They had 9. They had 0 in the first half, 9 in the second half. You can't play that way. So I got to do a better job of calling it in a way to limit those explosives, and in the way that they were playing. I think if you eliminate some of those explosives, you get them behind the sticks, or you don't let them chunk it down the field.
What's it like as you're there on the sidelines? This thing is going like a snowball down. What's it like trying to figure out a way to stem that?
Yeah, there's always a little bit of a balance of, you don't know if, are we getting schemed or are we getting out executed? And usually it's always going to be some sort of combination of everything. And that can be the hardest part to kind of put your finger on, is where are we falling out? What do we need to do to adjust? But you rely on your coaches, your staff for that. You rely on the guys upstairs. What are you seeing? Where are we giving up big plays? And then you try to figure out, okay, hey, this next drive, this is what we need to get to. Obviously I got to do a better job of that, because whatever I decided to get to, it wasn't working.
You knew you were getting from Kaiser White from that Philly connection. Week 1, he was flying around. This week he had that big hit on Saquon, which led to Jalen's interception. What have you seen from Kaiser White, though, leading the defense here in Arizona? Yeah,
I think leadership has really – he's taken a step as a leader. In Philly, it was a very veteran group, and he was – that was his first year there. He was new to it, so he didn't necessarily step into a leadership role. I feel like he's done that, and I think, some comfort in the defense has helped him get to that spot. He's always been a high-energy, violent dude on the field that – can run, former safety in college. We put him in a lot of coverage situations where he's one-on-one on guys, and he's won. And so to me, like, we got that player. It's just cool seeing him in the green dot, seeing him as a captain, and a guy that's leading the charge. I got a soft spot for Kaiser. He's a really good teammate, and I love that about him. And I'm happy to see where he's going so far this year. Got to continue to improve.
Do you expect him to kind of take over that leadership component that you're missing with Buddha being out?
I don't think anyone's going to replace Budda Baker as a leader. I think guys are going to be themselves, and I think we have enough leaders throughout the defense that there's not going to be a void in leadership. But no one's, hey, you got to be Budda now until Budda. No, it's not that. I want guys to be themselves and not try to be someone that they're not. But I think we have a group of leaders and a group of just good teammates, whether they look at themselves as leaders or not, that we'll be fine.
You got your first taste of what the atmosphere can be like in the stadium when you're on defense and everybody's pumping everybody up. I mean, what was that like, and how real does that affect for a defense?
Yeah, obviously you love when the crowd is bumping on defense. I've also been up in the box for most of my career where you do start to feel that, but like once the drive is going and once the game is going, as a play caller, you don't necessarily notice a lot of that. Off of a stoppage, stuff like that, you can definitely start to feel that loud noise. But anytime you're playing defense and the crowd is into it, that's a good thing.
A guy like Dante last week, and where has he grown the most since just coming to the Valley?
Yeah, I think honestly he's grown just being assignment sound. He's a guy that we can rely on out there in the run game and in the pass game. He has the tools to become a really good player. He knows he has to continue to make strides, but I'm excited. He's got to step into a big role right now, and I believe he's going to continue to get better week in, week out.
How much can you kind of maybe put the adversity you faced in the second half to next week versus Dallas? Do you put that immediately in motion? Or?
Well, I don't know if that adversity necessarily goes right into Dallas. I think that's something, the poor second half that we had, I think it's something that we're going to learn from, to where when we're in that situation again, we know how to play better and finish that game. But that doesn't necessarily, we're not taking whatever those emotions or energy is into Dallas. To me, you show up every day as the same person, right? And so we're showing up for this Dallas week like we would if we would have won that game, with our preparation process, with our psychological preparation and everything.
What is the most challenging part of Dak Prescott's game-to-game plan for?
Well, I think just as an offense in general, they're very well-rounded, and Dak can beat you dropping back. He can beat you throwing quick game. He can beat you play action, boot, getting out of the pocket, throwing in the pocket, throwing on time, not on time, extending plays. Like that's hard to defend when people are not one-dimensional. Is what do you pick your poison? What do you want to take away? And whatever you end up taking away, you better do a good job with the other things and winning your point of attack one-on-ones. So. Dak is well-rounded. He's playing really efficient right now, and that offense is rolling. So his versatility, his decision-making right now is leading to them playing good on offense.
In terms of learning from that game, Kaiser and both Jalen talked about a little bit of complacency. When you have a lead, maybe you take your foot off the gas. Did you sense that? Talk after the game about that?
No. Like I said, I actually had the position coaches look at the difference in effort from the first half to the second half, and there wasn't. I don't think you asked about stamina earlier. There wasn't a huge necessarily drop off because we chart all those things. I think it comes down to just executing better. People want to use the word momentum, right? And I think momentum is a thing if you think it's a thing, but ultimately if you're trained to not hey, we gave up this big play. If I'm trained to correct the problem and move on to the next play, that it's not going to snowball. It's not going to have a snowball effect. So, I'd say if anything, we got to make sure that momentum is not a thing for us. It's always, doesn't matter what happened in the past. I'm not thinking about the future. I'm right here in the present. What do I have to do on this play from a schematic standpoint, technique standpoint, all of that. So yeah.
Tony Pollard?
Explosive. He's always been very explosive. He can hit you on home run. You can't let him get through to the second, third level, and because he can take it the distance. Yeah, he's doing a good job right now, toting the load. Yeah.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate you guys.